Greetings, humans. As I juggle the fact that I've got more than one screen going on live, going online right now. I'm hearing music. I'm hearing that intro dun, 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 on two screens. It's because I'm watching myself on YouTube, and I had muted it because professional. So let's start that over, Willie. Shall we? Greetings, humans. My name is Guy Royce, and welcome to my stream. Not my stream, the Redis stream. Today, I'm going to be working on a live coding project using, of course, Redis stack specifically as my backend database, and I'm going to be using Node on the front end. So I tend to favor programming in JavaScript. I'll do TypeScript on occasion too, but I actually prefer JavaScript. It's just old habits die hard, I guess. And the project that I'm working on is a thing that I've called RedisMUD. So if you have ever played like Zork, the text adventure Zork, a MUD is like a multiplayer version of Zork. It's sort of an old school text-based MMORPG, but really just a multiplayer online RPG, not a massively multiplayer online RPG, although there's no reason it really couldn't be massive. And so I'm working on one of these in Node and using Redis as the backend for it and using PubSub to do it. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on. I think it's kind of a neat idea. And I'm going to keep working on the code here. So let's head over into the war room. Here we go. That's not the war room. This is the war room. I'm told that you can't fight in here. And let's go ahead and take a look at my code. So I worked on this 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to work on it again today. And I've sort of just got kind of chat room functionality using PubSub right now. So here I've got this idea of a session. I've got a global channel, although I'm not using it for anything yet. And in the session, when you init it, you get to pass in your user ID, and then we'll fetch that user ID, and we'll fetch the hub, which is the default room that you start in when you connect to the thing, when you connect to RedisMUD. And then I immediately then duplicate the Redis client that I have here to get a subscriber. So PubSub is a blocking thing, right? Messages get pushed down. And so you can't do it on your main Redis connection, because if you do it on your main Redis connection, then you can't use it for anything else. Oh, hey, Methalich. How's it going? Good to see you. Hopefully, one of these days we should actually talk in person. That'd be fun. It's like you see my face and hear my voice and everything. It's totally unfair, you know? So anyhow, that client needs to be duplicated. So if on the Redis CLI, on the Redis client, on Node Redis, if you call it .duplicate on an existing connection, it will give you a new connection with the same properties. So I've done that. I'm calling that the room subscriber, and then I connect it. And I don't know if the connect there is actually necessary. It might not be. And then I call subscribe. I think it probably is, actually. And then say, hey, whenever a particular channel, in this case, the channel is the room ID that I'm in, gets a message, call this little function here, and then in this function, I call a callback that was provided when the the alleged client of the session class uses it. And so down here, you've got an on message callback. This is where you set the callback. So then that on message, whatever got passed in on message, we call on that, assuming we have something. If we don't, then we don't. And then, of course, just to be nice and tidy, when we're done, we can call destroy, and it will unsubscribe. So these are basically constructor functions and destructor functions at this point. And then the user interacts with the session object. This could probably be front-ended with like a WebSockets and a web page, or maybe it might be fronted with just straight up TCP connection, in essence, a glorified telnet, because we're going to get old school here, or SSH, or just whatever you would want to put in front of that. You know, heck, maybe it would just be SMS, or some sort of SMS gateway, or I've been getting into ham radio lately. You could do it over APRS and some ridiculous stuff like that. But the idea is that you send in your command, which might be just like text. So like, hi, everybody. And then Dr. Nick responds with, hi, everybody. But it could also be like slash commands, where you say like /look, and it will give you the description of the room, or /whisper username, and then the user you want to whisper a message to. Or maybe /teleport, which would take you to another room. And so right now, all it does is do chat messages. So if you send a command, it just assumes that it's a message for the rest of the humans in there to read. And we say Redis client.publish, and we publish to the room channel that username, me, said this. So that's what we've got so far. The users here are pretty straightforward, and so are the rooms. The room has two static methods on this class. One to fetch the hub, which fetches hardcode room number 1, and then fetch a room by an ID, which would fetch any room. And all this really does here, and this is a pattern I'm experimenting with. I'm not sure if I like this or if it's a good idea. I think it's an interesting pattern. It's got a pro and a con. I'm making a trade-off here. So fetch room, all it does is really just create a new room object, set its ID to the ID you pass it, and then return it. And then when you go and get anything from it, if you get the ID, it just returns the ID. But if you get the name or if you get the description of that room, it's actually just making a Redis call on the fly. So it's a hot object, right? And so I like this pattern because it's like super ultra mega real time, right? If someone changes something and they change the name of the room, I know immediately. Right? As soon as I ask it, it's always getting that information. Same thing for the description. So it's very real time. The big downside to this is a very chatty way of talking to Redis, and so every single time you access these getters and setters, or you're, well, in this case these are just getters, but every single time you access these, and they're not real getters. Note that they're functions. There's no get on it. It talks to Redis, and so that's a very chatty thing. I think that works well for what I'm trying to build here because it's a multiplayer, it's a multi-user dungeon. I'm not envisioning the scaling to like tens of thousands of users. I'm thinking, at most you might have 20 or 30 people. It'd be a community of friends hanging out. And so I think this will scale just fine for that sort of scenario. If I wanted to really ramp this up and make it like, World of Evercraft, and have, 20,000 people on a server, then this would clearly not work and you'd want to do a different approach. So I'm going to go with this pattern. I'm going to see how it pans out because I've never tried this before and I think it's an interesting idea. But it is chatty. One thought I've had, by the way, in relationship to this pattern here is it might be interesting to, instead of getting them each time, is having this room object subscribe to key space notifications so that whenever someone changes that, the room, it invalidates its cache values. So it could actually cache it like in memory. And so it would, you could read it once, store it. And then as you, and if it gets changed, then it gets updated. And so that might be an optimization that would be worth playing with as well. That's, I'm sure, has a trade-off as well. I haven't really thought about what that trade-off specifically would be. I just sort of thought of talking about it right now. So, but yeah, this is the code that I've got. And so you got room and you've got a user. I'm using these things called ULIDs. I don't have any, I'm not actually fetching any ULIDs right now, but this package called ULID, I don't actually have it in here because I'm not using it yet. ULIDs are like UUIDs in, that we use for all sorts of other things. The main difference being that a ULID is formatted like this, and it's got fewer characters. It just serializes to a more compact number as a string, and it's got rid of a certain, I think it's base 32 encoded, and it's gotten rid of certain some very, and since there's no dashes or anything like that, it's very URL friendly if you want to use them in a URL. And I see that my network bandwidth is going low again. I really need to call my cable company and get them to fix my network. So I think I've got some goals today. Sorry, my nose itches like crazy. It's just mustache. It tickles my nose all the time. I've got some low-level goals today. One thought is that I want to be able to look at the room. Like I want to be able to type like /look and then have it tell me the name and the description of the room. So that's one thing I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to move between rooms with like a teleport command. So you could /TP space and then the room ID or maybe the room name. I'm not sure what that'll look like. I don't know that I'll get to that today. And I've got this this spec here that tests everything, but it's really kind of an integration test. It's not a unit test. And so it might be nice to have a unit test on the rooms and the users. And it also it'd be kind of nice to have a whisper command so people could whisper to each other. So that's what I'm thinking. So let's just get into the code. So I've got, let's see. Let's go to the spec here. Let's start with the look command, because I think the look command will it'll do a couple things. No, actually, let's do the whisper command, because the whisper command is going to build out infrastructure that I'm going to then need for the look command. Because right now, when you send a message here, it always publishes the room. So everyone who's in the room is going to get the message. But if I'm looking at the room, I don't want everyone to see that message. I only want to see it myself. And that means that I need a user channel with a pub sub as well as a room channel. So I need to listen to both of those things. And so let's start. Let's try to be a good developer, and let's see if we can do a whisper and write a unit test first. So I think to set this up, we've got two users. We've got Conrad and Mefalich. You all have made the test data. Is there anyone else watching that would like to have a user named after them? If not, I'm going to pick the last person I streamed with. And that is going to be Savannah. So, and Savannah might be watching, actually. But we're going to create another user. Username is going to be TBD. You know what user we need, actually? I'm sorry, Savannah, I'm not going to pick you because I just thought of something better. Leroy Jenkins. There we go. So we got an L Jenkins. Actually, I don't like L Jenkins. We're gonna go with Leroy. There we go. And the reason I want this is because I want multiple users. So I want Mefalich to send a whispered message to Conrad, and I want to see that Conrad receives it and that Mefalich receives it, but Leroy doesn't. And so that becomes the test that I want to run. So we've got a session. So we need 3 sessions to make this test possible. So we got, let's rename session and other session to Mefalich session, Conrad session, and Leroy session. I think those are better names. So refactor, rename symbol. We'll call this Mefalich session. Mefalich. And then this one will be rename symbol. This will be Conrad session. And then we're going to create a third session, which is going to be Leroy session. And then we're going to go ahead and in the before each, we'll set up all these sessions. We'll say Leroy session. Leroy session equals, whoops. And Leroy. Is it that like French for the king or something like that? Yeah, so regarding Whisper, every object level of this game could have its own subscription hooks. Yeah, it really could, couldn't it? Because right now we have rooms and we have users, but you really could have all these things publishing. You just subscribe to the things you want to. I do have the idea. I haven't done any code around it yet, but I did sort of hard code the idea of a global session right here. I haven't done anything with it yet, but we need a global session as well at some point, simply because there's going to be like system admin messages saying, hey, the server's shutting down and stuff like that. And so we'll want that as well. So yes, you're totally right. It fans out kind of nicely, actually. But for now, we're just going to start with user sessions and room sessions, because those are really the only 2 objects we have in this in the application. So here's Leroy's session. That's not an equal. It's going to be a init. There we go. And then I guess we need to destroy those as well. Leroy session. Let's do this. I apologize for the bad jokes. I was going to say in advance, but after the fact. And then I actually kind of want to make sure. So here we're saying we receive a chat message from ourselves, but what this test really is receives a chat message from, receives a public chat message. So I think maybe the test is, well, Okay, yeah. So this is Conrad sending a message. So really, everyone should receive these messages. So all users receive a public message, and then target users receive the target message. But that's going to come on different. Hang on. So on message is going to be message and channel. Thinking about how I've designed this here. So on message, it's callback. We pass in the message and the channel into that callback. That's what we expect as a message in a channel. I'm thinking about how I want to refactor these tests. Are these tests passing still? That's probably a better question. They are. That's a good sign. So we expect a message from there. And so we actually let's change this to all users receive public messages. That doesn't sound like sense. It needs to say it. So describe session, it receives a public chat. It receives a public chat message for, it's not really an it. It's like y'all. Yeah. I have this thing when I'm writing my test where I kind of want them to read like a sentence. So I say the session, what does the things what does it do? It does this, it does that. And it receives a public chat message. For all sessions in the room. So this really just becomes a duplication. This is ugly. I'm going to refactor it once I figure out what it should look like. But we got Mephiluch's session, Conrad session, and Leroy's session. And we shouldn't be returning these promises. Oh, this is an ugly test, isn't it? Promise.all. I hate this. It's hideous. Hideous. Why are you letting me do this? Someone needs to call me out on my shenanigans. These all go into there. So it goes down there. And then these need to be comma delimited. And why is it saying right? Okay, missing a matching parenthesis there, and there, and now it's complaining. That's what we need. There we go. I feel like this is a yo dog meme of a test. So it's calling return promise.all of those things. Oh, I can't. No, I can't do that because then this line of code never gets executed. So it's going to be const promise equals that. And then we return the promise. That doesn't work. Nope, nope, nope. Because we got to register the on message. So that's not going to work. This is getting hairy quick. Why'd you let me go down this path, people? Why'd you let me do it? Let's undo all this. This was a terrible, terrible idea. Because I basically am writing a rather involved unit test here that is it's testing 3 asynchronous things that all have to come back. So this is not a unit test. This is totally an integration test. If I call promise.all, that will return a promise. But then when I call send command, this works right now. Okay, I know what I need to do. Do I? I do. How do I write a test for this? Actually, this is kind of hard. This is not what I thought I would be doing. Because I need to basically wait for all 3 of these promises to resolve. And then do I need to do like something like this? New promise. And say return new promise. Result for all of reject. Okay. I think there's a better way to do this. I think I actually think the way I had written this before kind of works better. Let's go ahead and go back to just one. I mean, this is testing the public scenario, right? Here we're saying receives a chat message from ourselves, receives a chat message from someone else. That confirms that it's public. There's no whispering happening here. So if we send foo, we validate that Methalich's message comes through here. I'm going to swap this out to be Conrad up here. And Conrad's in the same room. And this message is going to, and then it's going to be Methalich sending this again. He's going to send the command bar. That should actually fail because and it does. So what I've got here is Methalich, you're doing all the talking. And then I'm validating that everyone else can see your messages. So cool. Let's okay, so let's write then the test for it receives a whisper from ourselves. So that's going to be just a variation of this test here. So you see when you do a whisper, you see your message sort of pop up there. And so when Methalich whispers, it gets something like this to Conrad. And does Conrad have to Conrad Taylor? I'm going to go with just Conrad and Leroy here because I think that's easier. And we sent foo, we sent bar. Let's say send Baz this time. Okay, Whisper. And then it's going to be Conrad, and then Baz. So that test is definitely not gonna work. It also isn't going to be on the room session. It's going to be on the user session, which I think is just going to user.id for the session name. Yeah, let's do that. That isn't even going to compile. Actually, it'll compile. Yeah, the user ID will be there, but there's not a channel called user ID, so and no one's listening to it. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at session here. So let's go ahead and add a user session. And say it's a user subscriber. We'll duplicate again, and then we'll connect again. I'm not sure if that connects needed or not. I think it is. I put it there for a reason. And then we'll just duplicate this. And then we'll get the message in the channel coming in. And then we'll call the callback. This code actually isn't being tested yet. We probably should do that at some point too. So we got the user subscriber. We're gonna, we need to destroy this and we're done. That. And now in the send command, we need to say, well, we need to do something different depending on what we get. So let's say if s dot starts with, is that a JavaScript thing? Starts with in JavaScript now? I can't remember. Let's go look. Mozilla Developer Network, global objects string. There is a starts with. So if it starts with / whisper space, then we're going to do one thing, else we're going to do this other thing. I need the username. And we're going to publish something different, right? We're going to publish to the user ID. Change our error message. Expected a bunch of ones to be methylich. I'm not sure. I don't know if my test is doing what I think it's doing. Oh, I know the problem. Oh no, I / whisper. Whoops. Don't want to save the web page. Unknown error expected a bunch of ones to be methylich. Where is that happening? I think that's just actually Um, expected the user ID. I would have really thought that I didn't think that'd be the error because we're in here. We're saying if it starts with Whisper, spelled Whisper right. There we go. That's more like it. That's the kind of error I was expecting. Oh yeah, that could happen. We'll see. I'm going to try not to go down a massive object-oriented path with this, but I don't know. I always seem to find myself there. I spent too many years as a Java developer, so I tend to go down that path a lot. And JavaScript has classes, so it reinforces that idea. Okay, so if it starts with Whisper, then we need to parse out the username, fetch that user. So it's going to be like we're going to say s dot split. This would be a super easy parsing. And say const be the command, the user, and dot 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 the message. That should give me another array then. It's really not what I want, but maybe I should parse this with regex. Yeah. By the way, for those who are watching, I saw the chat message and I didn't bring it up for everyone's attention, but yeah, HTML based class and inheritance needs from now on. This could totally go. It actually does lend itself as an object oriented problem. I'm talking about rooms and I'm talking about, you know, connections between them and all that kind of stuff. It does lend itself to it. It's got a lot of nouns, doesn't it? So, this isn't how I should be parsing this, though. I think I need to parse this with a regex. So s.match slash, and then I want to grab. I don't care about the command, so we'll say starts with. There we go. Slash, which means I need to escape it. Whisper. I want to match that, and then I want to get in a space, and then this content here. This is going to be dot star. It's going to be dot star. Will that parse it the way I want? I know this will pass my test, but I don't think that regex is quite right. But we're going to go with it for now. So the call to match then is going to return results. And as the result's going to have, I think, variable 1 const. I wonder if I can just destructure this here. We'll go comma, user ID, and message. I think that'll work. And then first, just to see if that works, let's go ahead and we'll say this.user.id. And we'll say, okay, it's going to user. It's going to be, we'll just do user ID for now. Let's see. What? S.match object null is not iterable. That's probably because the result of calling. Am I spelling whisper wrong? I suspect I am. Hey, that worked. Cool. Let's try. Let's try a message with a space in it and see how it handles it. Yeah, the dot star is being greedy. I thought that might happen. And so I need to make that regex a little smarter. But the cool thing is the regex is working. So I just need to say, instead of saying dot star, I really need to say like, what's the non-white space? It's \S, I think. Anything that's not white space. Yeah. No. I would have thought that would have worked. Oh yeah, it did work. It did work. Now it's saying to Conrad. So that totally worked. Okay, so there's that. And then this becomes the message. Okay, so it's actually sending the message I expect. Yeah, we want to send message. Now we have everything except the casing. And the reason we don't have the casing is because we actually need to look up. We need to fetch the user. So await a user.fetch user. And actually, I don't think user.fetch is asynchronous. It's not, because it doesn't actually read anything. So const user equals user.fetch user. And then that's going to be user ID. So how do I do that? Fetch user, pass in the fetch user with user ID. So that will give me the user I care about. And then I can get the name from that and await that. To user equals await that. There we go. Just to user. And that works. Hot damn. Okay. This is a little ugly, but it's doing what I want. Let's write the next test to make sure that it that Conrad also receives this. So we're going to have Conrad's session now. We expect that on his to be Conrad's user ID, and it's going to say methylich to Conrad, Bazquux, and then methylich sends that, and we should see that as there as well. We won't, and yeah, it's taking forever to run because of this test times out because resolve never gets called. And the reason that's not working is because session is not smart enough. So let's go ahead and publish this. We need to publish this to 2 people. It needs to be published to user ID as well. Actually, that'll probably just pass it. Oh, user ID. I thought I typed it correctly. And then that works. Cool. So the idea here is we publish to who said it and who it was destined to go to. And then we have one final test then we need to do here. saying it does not receive a whisper message directed at somebody else. This is going to be the Leroy session. And we expect this not to be called. I don't know that I can write a test for this. Oh, can I write a test for this? I don't think I can, because since it's async, I think this might not be possible. That's actually kind of annoying. How could I write a test for this? Because I can't wait for a message. Because I really want what I would need to do is just say expect this not to be called, but then I can't resolve it. I don't think I can write a test for this, so I'm gonna. I mean, it is doing a separate thing. It is on the user channel. I guess that'll be sufficient. Well, we can whisper. So, and it's making use of PubSub to do it. I mean, I've kind of built a chat room here, right? If I put something in front of this, it would actually be like a proper chat room. What do I want to do next? How are we doing on time? We've been going about an hour, 45 minutes. There's a couple things I don't like that I've written. For starters, this is a big clustered mess. I don't like that I necessarily use /starts with. But this whole command, this becomes a command processor, right? You need something that knows how to process these commands for a given user, and turn them into like what I'm imagining here is you've got like a thing that processes commands. Let's say let's just create a function. Let's noodle on some code down here at the bottom. We'll create a process command, and then it gets an S, and then it's going to look there and it needs to figure out what kind of command it is. And so, if it starts with /whisper, then whisper, then it's going to call a function, like function process whisper, and then there'd be a function of process chat. And then this would look here at the beginning of the message and parse out the pieces, and then send what needs to be sent. So, well, let's just write some code and see what ends up looking like. So if we say, basically come out with this, if it starts with a thing, then this would call process whisper. And it would be return process whisper. Would it be return process whisper? No, it wouldn't. There's nothing to return. I mean, we do want to return after we call that. Else process chat. And why is it? Oh, curly brace. It's a curly brace there. And then we could do, this would be the whisper processing code here. And this would be the chat processing code. And then this would be the command processing code. And these all. I think I want to do this to separate them out a little bit. So from user equals, and we don't have a user yet, but from user. And then I think we want to do the same thing down here. From user, but we want to spell from. We want to make sure that's properly camel cased. And let's go ahead and let's put these functions into the class here and see how it looks. This class is going to be too big, but at least this will be a little cleaner. I'm going to need to extract out a class to make this tidier here. But for now, we can just do this. Maybe not a class, but at least a module. This dot process whisper. This dot process chat. The nice thing here is that we have access to our current user. We have access to the room, so this all becomes a little tidier. So this is responsible for parsing the command. This doesn't have any command to parse. So, and we get the to user and the from user and the to user. And then and we publish the two messages. From user there. I mean, that'll work. Process command just becomes send command. So we don't really need that. That's not too bad. This is becoming a little bit of a god class where it just does too much. But for now, I think this is acceptable. Do all my tests still pass? They do. Yeah. That'll work. So that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I mean, well, it has the potential to be a really good idea. Right? We may get into it and find out it's a terrible idea, but I think that's a good idea. Let's do that. So I received a whisper message directed at us and only us. So if Mephilich then sends something to Leroy, then it doesn't trigger that. I can't validate that it was only called twice, but it can validate that I didn't get a message from Conrad. Otherwise, this would. Oh, is that actually going to do it? Publish two messages. First, other channel. Second, self channel. Expect to have just one. Order is a trick. Yeah, you're right. I am. Yeah, order's the trick. Order of sending. Yeah, I sent the wrong message first. So because I sent this message first, and then it's not received here, that should immediately then And we can confirm that actually. But it should send this message to Redis, and then it'll send this message to Redis over PubSub. And they should happen in order, and they should happen immediately. And then once this JavaScript code returns all the way back, this promise will trigger. The on message will get fired, and then we will get we should only get one message. So let's try that. Let's go to Redis Stack here. We can monitor PubSub here in Redis Stack. So let me subscribe to all the messages come around, and then let's rerun the tests and see what messages. That's right. Line 46. Oh yeah, using async. These don't need to be async. That needs to be async. And then this needs to be await. Line 54. Does need to be async. And we need to await. I guess technically we really don't need to. We could just say return. That'll return a promise. That actually does kind of ties you up the code a little bit. That's a bad sign. They're all timing out in 5 seconds. This test will self-destruct in 20 seconds. A reference there, S is not defined. Oh, yeah. S. I did all this refactoring, and then I didn't actually, like test it and stuff. That worked. Okay, cool. So let's clear this out. I see lots of messages here. Wipe them out. Wipe them all out. And let's comment out that test and that test and that test and see if this does what we think it does. You can't X. Oh. I think that might be different from VI test and jest. Because in the VI test, you can call XIT, and then it pens that test. I don't know if there's a comparable thing for VI test, but we'll just do that. Let's wipe these out. There we go. So it sends Mephilich and Leroy, and then yeah, from Mephilich to Leroy, to both of them, from Mephilich to Conrad to both of them. And is that what my tests are doing? So we send the command whisper Leroy Baz Quux. Whisper Conrad Baz Quux. Yeah, those are the order is coming in the order we think they are, because here we say whisper a message to Leroy of Baz Quux from Mephilich. And so then that got sent to Mephilich and it got sent to Leroy, which is exactly the order that it happens in our code right here. Because we send it to the self first and then the to user second. And then We send a message to Conrad from Mephilich, and then we see again it goes to self and then the target. So yeah, that works perfect. Good idea. Good idea, Mephilich. I feel good about that. I feel better about that anyhow. Let's undo all those comments. And we can see all the messages spinning around here. Look at them all go. Do we have a bunch of keys here? Or do I clean up afterwards? I can't remember. I do clean up afterwards. Good. Yeah, call flush all. Okay, well, we implemented Whisper. That's fun. I want to do one other small thing for Whisper, because typing /whisper all the time seems like it'd be a big pain in the butt. So let's make it work with /w as well. So let's see. Not adding any new functionality, but actually, let's not mess with. Let's not mess with that. That's not adding anything interesting on stream. We'll add a different command. We've got some interesting tests here. Let's write look. I think that would be the next interesting thing to do. Let's look at a look command. So say it receives a room description directed at us and only us. When the user looks. So we're going to have Mephilich take a look at the room. Should be your user ID, and send command look. We expect the message to be the hub /n. And do we have a description for the hub? We don't. But the room does have a place for a description. So let's add a description to the room. What do we want to make the hub look like? This large open room has numerous doors. This large open circular room would be a hub if it wasn't circular. This large open circular room has numerous doors. At the center, a large oak receptionist's reception desk. That is a fun little description. And then what we expect in our test then is to be the hub, and then we have this description here. So we'll just copy pasta that down. Do that. It's hideous. We'll go with that for now. This is where having a constant would actually be useful. And we won't backtick it. We'll just single quote it. So we're expecting to get to the hub and the new line and then this information when we type /look. And this is probably failing. And oh yeah, we want yeah, that is on the user's channel. And this is just, yeah. So this is just treating it as a chat message. So we need to capture this, because what's happening now here is it's saying, well, it doesn't match a whisper. So then we call process chat and we just send the message out. So we need to say if it starts with look, if it equals look. This dot process look. And once we have this, we have a lot of the mechanism we needed to do more, right? So let's add a process look. That's an S. We know it's actually, we don't even need that. We know that there's nothing to parse, so we won't pass it in. And that is just going to be a matter of doing this. Publish this.user.id, and then it's just going to be some text. Color dots. We've got this.room already, right? So it'd be this.room name. So wait, that's all async. Const room name. That and description. This is going to get tedious quick. And then this is going to be the room name /n room and just description. Name. Asked, hey. I suppose we should make sure that other people don't see that message as well. So let's have someone else send a look. This is exactly the same problem again, right? It's just like this. So if Leroy looks, we only get called once. That's gonna, no, that doesn't work actually, because they're both going to return the same thing. Actually, that would fail because the user ID would not match. So that will, in fact, test what we want, and that confirms it's us and only thus. I'm kind of thinking that these tests are okay. I'm looking at this test here and thinking you can receive a whisper message from ourselves and nobody else gets it, but we kind of are testing that here already. So I think that's okay. And here, this validates that we get only the message from us. I don't think we need to duplicate this. It means that when we issue commands, the command responses come to us only. So that's what we're trying to do here. So we're doing, I'm pretty happy with how the pub sub stuff here is working. So I got much further than I thought I was going to get today. It's gone a lot faster than I thought it would, because I've implemented look and I've implemented whisper. Maybe I should implement teleport. You think I should implement teleport so that we can hop around to other rooms and then and make sure that when I say something in one room, it doesn't go to the other room and stuff like that. That might be kind of fun. But actually, probably what I should be doing instead is I've got these users and rooms, and they're a little untested. And I'm also up here when I'm creating things. I'm just doing raw JSON calls to get those in there, Redis JSON calls. And I kind of feel like I should dog food this and use the classes that I've created here that are going to talk to Redis JSON on my behalf. So let's do that. I think that'll be interesting because we've been playing around with PubSub, but I want to play around with some Redis JSON. But before I do that, we have something really, really important we have to do. We need to open up a terminal window. I guess I had one already. Why not have two? It'll be great. Git status, git add dot, git commit -m, look and whisper and whisper, look and whisper and refactor. Oh my. Push. By the way, if anyone else wants to play around with this code, I've got it up on my GitHub. Let me see if I can find the link here. I may not have one. We can solve that problem. So I've got it up on GitHub here. Do I have my GitHub link here? There. It's right there. I'll create a little banner here so that everyone can see it. So it's right up there on GitHub, github.com/GuyRoyce /RedisMUD. This will probably end up on the Redis developer at some point, but for now, I've got it just on my own GitHub, just because I'm kind of getting started with it and seeing what it does. There's a better way to display it without the HTTPS://. So if you want to play this code, you can go out there and do that. But yeah, I've got these users which just have a name and an ID, and I've got these rooms which have an ID and a name and a description, but I don't have any way of creating them or saving them. I suppose you could always fetch them. So what I want to do is I want to write a unit test. Let's do a new unit test that says, we'll call it the room spec. And we will copy pasta this guy here. Delete almost everything. Don't care about session. Scribe. We want to import here is user. Live user.js. And we're not going to need Redis client. We're just going to make the user do things. Actually, we are going to need Redis client because we need to validate that it actually writes things out to Redis. So before all, do an after all. The after all, we want to go ahead and flush it, I think. Maybe after each. But I don't know that we have anything we need to do here in before all or before each. For now. That is not how you spell async, although it is a more fun way to spell async. Yeah. Send wrong message first. Oh, wait, sorry. That was an old message. Create booze. It's crucial in all dungeons. Well, at some point we'll need to create objects of sorts, so that you can have you need potions, right? I've got some potion bottles back here myself, honestly. So we totally need potions, and you need weapons and stuff like that. Your users will end up having characters with attack bonuses, armor class, and hit points, and all those sorts of things. But we want to test user. And so say user, we need to fetch a user. I think I guess we could just do the fetch here. So what do we need? Create, read, update, and delete, right? So we need to be able to create a user. We need to be able to, or not a user, we don't want to do user. We want to do room. We're supposed to be doing room. Why didn't you tell me I was doing the wrong thing? Isn't that the chat's job in these streams here? It's like pair programming, right? So bring in room, and then before each. So we need to create a room. We need to fetch said room. We need to insert. So it's Redis. So it'd really be an upsert, I suppose. So let's let me noodle here on the code a little bit. So we've got a fetch. So let's just find things. We already implemented that, but we're going to want to like a static create room. And that's going to just create a room off. It's going to do this. Do that, but instead of that, it's going to call ULID and assign it a ULID. We've got that's going to create a new room with the ULID ID, and then when we set, but it's not going to set anything on it in the JSON, because we should be able to then just call these the name and the description as setters, and it'll just happen. So okay, so now I'm getting brain. I'm figuring out how I want to write this test. So let's say describe room, describe create. So the create method on it, it's static, but it's still. So when we create a room, and we need to do it before each there, before each. And we'll say let room to be our subject for each. Room equals room.create. Create or create. I call it create room. That feels redundant. Let's just call it create. This really should be fetch, not fetch room. We'll take care of that later. So call room.create. And then what's true of the room? It has a ULID. Has a ULID for an ID. It has a valid ID. What else is going to be true of it? It's going to have an empty name. Empty description. And so a valid ID is going to basically means that expect. I think I can do this as a one-liner. Room.id to the let's see. We don't have a specific ID. It's going to generate one randomly. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So I'm going to say to match, and I know that a ULID has a particular pattern, but I'm lazy and I don't want to figure it out. But I'm going to use a regex and say ULID match regex match ULID. I use this Brave browser, and it gets the weirdest art in the background, doesn't it? Let's just look up ULIDs. Here's the ULID spec. It's got it's got a specific set of letters that it allows. It excludes I, L, O, and U to avoid confusion and abuse. That actually sounds like writing a regex4 is going to be a big pain in the butt, but let's try it anyhow. So it's gonna match 0 through 9, and then these are the letters it's not going to match. So that's going to be A through H, J, K, M, N, O, P through T, and V through Z. Right. And I want there to be an exact number of those. What's the regex on the exact number? It's this, or it's curly braces, right? And I want there, and how long are these things exactly? The ULID is, well, it's exactly that long. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It should be exactly 26 characters long, the number of letters in the alphabet. That should match any ULID we throw at it. And we don't need that. Away. This is going to be after each. Flush all. Not sure why it's sluggish there. What did I break? Why is session not working? That should still work. I haven't touched it. Huh. Oh. Because I broke room.js. This thing right here. Wait, turn result.name. That is then room.js line 28. That should totally work. That means JSON.get $.name is failing on there. And which test is that that's failing? All of them. Okay, well, these I would... Oh, it's ULID is not defined. npm install save ULID. And then here in room.js, import ULID. There we go. No, that's not the problem. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering too. I was getting syntax errors. The annoying thing here is it's all asynchronous, so it's like I got to wait like 25 seconds for them to all fail. On the plus side, my room spec passes. But somehow in the process of that, I broke the session. It's because it's all async, and so it's kicking off and running other tests. So I need to not do things like that. That's probably what it is. Yeah, that was it. So because I'm wiping the database out, it's causing issues. That makes sense, actually. So good call, Methlich. So it has a valid ID. That actually, it bugs me that that's not. I'd like to see that break before I continue. So for starters, let's be extra strict with the regex here. And then let's go into room.js, and where we create a new room, let's, instead of saying room.id equals ULID, let's say room.id equals Bob. Okay, good. So that works. So that works. Now we expect it to have an empty name. So this needs to be async. Async. Expect. Export. Expect. Room.name. Wait. To actually, I wonder if can I do this? We're going to put a wait in there first, but we're going to be. I think it's going to be null. That it correct? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's actually doing the right thing, because that path doesn't resolve to anything. Because we're querying $.path, that's just going to return null because it doesn't match anything. So like, if I go out into Redis here, I set in Redis JSON. Let's go to the workbench and say JSON.set. Let's just do get foo $.name enter nil. They say foo $. Give me the root. That's also going to return nil. If I do JSON.set foo $, and then just give it like an empty object, I do a .get name, that's going to return. Yeah, it's because there's no object out there at all. So this sort of suggests a question, which is, should create actually create something? Like, should it create an empty object out there when you call create? It's like, okay, you've said you want a room, and it has this ULID, and Redis knows about it, and it's going to be just an empty JSON object. And then once you set a property, it will update it. Because that would then return undefined instead of result being null. Well, let's try a different thing. Let's wipe our database out. This will tell me whether I can get away with this. If I can say JSON.set $.name on something that doesn't have anything in it, and $.name is a path, and so then I need to set it to a string literal, and so the JSON representation of that string literal is going to be test like this. Will that work? Backtick. single. Like that either. Oh, it's because I typed 2 quotes. Let's get the syntax right here first, guy. Yeah, so new object, it's a new object needs to be created at the root. So that won't work. So I think when I create the room up here, I create a new room, I give it a ULID, and I think I need to save it at that point. So let's that would be Redis client dot JSON dot set, and then we will set how do we want to store these things? I think we want to store them with a key space. So we'll say room colon room.id. And then we want to say the root, and then we're just going to set it to an empty object. We need to await that. And now this becomes async. And in here, we then need to await this becomes async. And then wait. And then this should be, it's not null. What's it returning instead? So result is probably coming good. Is result coming back as null then? Let's take a look at our keys here. No, they're gone. Because we call create. Create goes through and creates a new room class, sets a ULID, sets a JSON object to that. It's just an empty object. Yeah, I think that's what I need to do. I need to check on the name method to see if it's null or not. What I'm trying to be sure of is that is what does node Redis return when you call JSON.get in here on a path that doesn't exist, because what I expected was that this would be like an empty array. But I guess it's not an array. It's node Redis is converting that array, which is like query results, and it's turning it into an object. And I'm also not sure it's going to be. Yeah, it's parsing out the return values, and I'm not getting anything at all. So this is probably coming back as null. Let's just do this console.log result. We'll see what it says it is. Yeah, it's just returning null. So I need to basically, in here, I need to say, we'll do that. Expected undefined to be null. Yeah. Do we want it to return undefined, or do we want it to be null? That's really the question. Well, it shouldn't just be a value, because this could actually return multiple things. Like if I had a JSON object that looked like, this. Right. And then these each had a name property in them. And then my XPath query was like $.name, which is to say, give me anywhere in the object hierarchy that has a property of name, and then you're going to get an array of those things back instead of just a discrete value. Now I know that so I think what it would do is this name here would be an array of things if there were multiple. Otherwise, it would be single. But I'm not sure about that, actually. I haven't poked all the corners of Node Redis in this. So I know I know that I was able to read this successfully when I inject them. So that's a good sign. I think I want this to be, I'm inclined to say null because it doesn't exist, but I know that that's just going to be, I don't know. JavaScript has null and undefined, and you never know when to use which one and why. I know in Redis I use null, and it said, well, no, we should be explicit about it's either null or not. And a lot of people have complained about that. Well, 3, but you know, it was a little bit of a design decision, and I'm finding myself facing that same design decision, and I don't know if I care if it's undefined or null. I want to be consistent. I kind of like that null is explicit. That should pass. And for those of you who are aren't JavaScript up to speed on the newest JavaScript stuff, this is the nullish coalescing operator. So in JavaScript, you know how you have truthy and falsy. These are all ideas. Truthy is anything that is equivalent to true, but also could it be other things? So like things that are truthy are true, non-zero numbers, arrays that have things in them, strings that are populated, that kind of thing. And then things that are falsy are things that are like 0 or undefined, null, that kind of thing. And it actually means with truthy and falsy, you can do this really crazy thing where it's like if you have a string and then you do bang, bang, that is another way of defining true. Right? Like if I go to the node console here and say bang, bang, foo, that's true. Because if you use the bang operator on something that is truthy, it will invert it to false. And if you use it on something that's falsy, it'll make it true. And if you double bang it, you do a bang bang, then it basically coerces it into a Boolean and then coerces it back. And then it's a way of coercing things into Booleans. So you got truthy and falsy in JavaScript. Well, nullish is a similar kind of idea. Nullish is undefined or null. So if something is nullish, it's undefined or null. And so what this does is it says if the thing to the left of it is undefined or null, if it's nullish, then return this value instead. So I could like say return semicolon, and then my test should fail now saying expected null but got semicolon, which is what it did. But I'm going to say if it is nullish, which is to say if it's undefined or null, make it null. It must be null. This question mark dot syntax here says, hey, if the thing that I'm calling dot on is null itself or undefined, if it's nullish, then just don't call the rest of this code. And so you can actually chain these along like, you know, foo, dollar bar. And it's sort of like if you've done any Swift programming, it's kind of like the whole optional thing. And so that's a convenient little mechanism here. So this is what I'm going to do because I'm going to go with null. So and Eric, thank you from the bottom of my Redis in my heart, because I have that on a t-shirt, for agreeing with my arbitrary decision. I like it because it's explicit. Like if you get null back, you know there's not a mistake. If you get undefined back, that could be the result of a bug, because lots of things in JavaScript will end up returning undefined. But if you return a null, that specifically says someone wrote code to make that happen, because null doesn't happen by accident in JavaScript. You have to choose to do it. And I think that's probably a better way to go. So that's my story. And as a country singer once said, and I'm sticking to it. Cool. So it has an empty name. And of course, it's going to have an empty description. So let's go ahead and write that test. I'm looking at YouTube, and my lag is really long, like 30 seconds. So if I'm not responding to you promptly, that is why. I am responding to you promptly. Bang bang null. What does bang bang null do? Bang bang null. Yeah, that's gonna course to false. Yeah, that works. Yeah. So I'm gonna stick with that story from now. See, this is why I stream, because if I'm not streaming, I have to talk to think out loud, And while I'm streaming, I can get these ideas out and come to good conclusions about why I'm doing the things that I've sort of intuited. And so it allows me to be a little more, I don't know, justified. It refines my thinking. It's possible that my YouTube is just super laggy. Okay, so this is, I'm sure, getting the same error and null. This does mean that I need another test, which is when I create it, it has a valid ID, and it creates an empty object, empty document in Redis. And I know that's going to be a little more. This is definitely going to be async because I'm going to call Redis. So redis.json.get. And I know that it put it in a key called room:/ULID. So I can call room.id. And I just want to get the whole dang thing. So const room JSON is going to be equal to that. And then we can say expect room JSON to equal. I think this is going to be an equal because it's an object. It's not going to be to be because it's not going to be the same instance. So here, if I say to be, it's going to say these things are the same instance. Or if they're like a constant, like a number, it's just going to work. It's just 42 is 42. It doesn't matter. But to equal is going to actually say these. If you do to equal on objects, it's going to say, well, this object points to here and this object points to here, even though they contain the same thing. So we want to deeply equal. So we call it to equal. And then I expect that to be empty string, actually. I wonder if there's a room.describe is not a function. Description. Description. Tell you what. Okay. And then I did not await something. Oh, that just worked. Is there a just matcher though for empty object? Because I think that would be a little cleaner, right? It's using VI, but VI mimics just. Just is empty object. Expect object to be empty. I don't know. What I've got's good enough. Is there any? Maybe I can get some to be empty. Invalid chai property. It uses chai. I didn't know it was using chai behind the scenes. Chai empty object. Chai before. It's not an empty array. It's an empty object. And so, but that's a good call out. Assert empty. To be empty. Here's chai. Expect that to be empty. Expect that to be empty. Chai actually does do to be empty, but it doesn't look like it's agreeing with my assertion as to what it should be doing. We'll just go back to the to equal an empty object because that works, right? And you know what I like is things that work. So how are we doing on time here? Wow, it's almost 4. This goes fast. This always goes fast. Creates an empty document in Redis. It has an empty name, has an empty description. Cool. We've created it. Now let's update it. So when created, I think that's good. And scribe when updating, the name is updated. Do that. And that'll need a before each. Say before each async room dot name is the pit. That's the hub. Now we have the pit. And that'll just work because that'll return, it's marked as async. That will return a promise. And so that should just work. And then we can say it has a name as the expected name. Wait, room.name, null, to be a pit. I'm going to go with double quotes on here because this is for humans to read. The pattern, my sort of rule with single quotes versus double quotes, because in JavaScript they're kind of arbitrary, is that if it's for humans to read, I use double quotes because it's likely that you're going to use an apostrophe because of contractions in English. And if it's for computers to read, which are unlikely to have apostrophes in them, then I put it in single quotes. And so, like this here, I would like a key name. I would put that in single quotes, whereas something for the humans, like these test descriptions and the its and any string that would be intended for humans to read, gets the double quotes. So it gets the double quotes. See if that doesn't do anything, of course, because room doesn't actually take a result. So or it doesn't take an argument. So let's give it an argument. We'll say new name. And say if new name has been passed in, if it's specifically, I suppose, if it's equal to undefined, is not equal to undefined, then so we update the name and then we get it. Then we want to go ahead and say await redis.client.json.set this key here. And we want the path to be $.name. Let's set it to a value of new name. What was created all the way up here. And it's probably because my session spec is calling flush all. Oh, I know what's going on here. Do I know what's going on here? Maybe I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so I don't know what's going on here. Has the expected name. I have no idea what I'm doing. Huh. Yeah, the problem, what's happening here is each time I do these, it's creating a new room because I'm actually creating out in. I need to do it before all. No, that's not it. That at least. Right, Mario. That's exactly the best of it. I know that's always the joy of it. I mean, that's why everyone watches, right? It's the reason people watch live coding at all is just that there's that sort of you don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of unpredictable. There's all the live, all that. So totally got you, Mario. No problem. Yeah, that's what I think's happening too, Methalich. I'm just trying to figure out why it's a new object because it shouldn't be. Yeah, exactly. The best part is exactly where you learn. That's exactly how you do it. It's called a crucible. Yeah. Actually, I have absolutely no shame in making mistakes publicly in front of everyone. It's just, it just doesn't bother me. It's just, it's useful, honestly. It's just part of how you. It's just part of it's part of being in front of people. Honestly, is just that you're going to make mistakes, and the faster that you can do that without caring that you're going to make mistakes, the more comfortable you're going to be, the more natural it is. The audience always is, the audience tends to be very forgiving, and so it's not a big deal. But yeah, I think what's happening here, Methalich, to your point with the code here, is that my call to in here where I'm creating the room is happening multiple times. And so it creates the room and says, yeah, it has a valid ID. And then it creates a room and then says it's got this JSON. And then it creates a room and says the name is empty. And it creates a room and says the description is empty. And then down here, it creates a room. And then we set the name. And then here, should we expect it to have the name, which it should have. See, this actually mystifies me a little bit. This should work because this before each is going to only happen for this entire describe, right? So this before each happens, this before each happens. And yeah, we're going to get a lot of rooms created that we don't care about. But I don't care about that right now. I just want to see my test pass. I is not a function. That is a thing that we've seen before. That's a weirdness of a VI test. What caused that? It was it was something along these. I remember we got something really goofy. VI test spits that out. I is not a function type error I is not a function periodically. Let's quit here and reload. Yes, it does. It creates an empty object in Redis. Yeah, the problem here is that this this is type error I is not a function, and that's probably happening up here. Okay, yeah, I remember seeing this. That is probably the result of that. Yeah, that's really annoying because I was using an arrow function with sort of the abbreviated syntax. This is something that VI test does, which is annoying. And I ran into it here too because I didn't have the await promise at all. I was trying to make it, just trying to be clever and take advantage of JavaScript syntax. And so as soon as I put these curly braces back, this then started working. So now it has a valid ID. It's still error, new object must be created at the root. That is still failing. And so it's not what I expected it to do. Because it's going to go up here and create the room. And then the room has been defined up here. So it's set. And now we're updating the name. Awaiting that. I wonder if this is a similar thing where I need to do this. No, it's not a weird VI test thing. And strictly speaking, we don't need to await this because it's going to return the promise that room.name returns, and then that's the same thing as awaiting it. Okay. Well, hey, I'm gonna comment this out because I got something else I want to play with, and maybe playing with this will reveal something. Because here I'm saying await room.name to be null, but I think I can say await to resolves.to be null. I think that is something you can do with VI as well. It is. I like that better. So let's bring this guy back. Use that same syntax here, and maybe that'll magically make the error go away. It's not going to magically make the error go away. Is something happening async that I'm not seeing here? So async room.create, because it's giving the error that says it's not created yet, but I know it's been created because that's happened. Actually, maybe it hasn't been created yet because it's pipelining the commands or something like that. Let's put an await on here. Maybe it makes a difference. No? Let's do something silly here. Let's just look. Let's say await Redis client.json.get room : $room.id root object here. Let's just see what it logs out. Helps if I would do console.log correctly. You think I would have spelled that right? It's only like my favorite command. It's actually I wonder if when you define an empty object, if it just doesn't. I bet you it's not defining an object in Redis, even though we're calling create, and what create does is it creates an empty object. So like up in here in create, it creates an empty object. Let's try something. Let's give it an ID just so it has that extra property. Let's see if that makes the errors go away. Storing the ID in the JSON document is not a bad idea anyhow. Oh yeah, it's going to be a total mess. I know that. Because it's going to create dozens of new objects through this test run. I do want to clean that up, but I want to see it work first. So create is creating that. So now there. On here. That feels right. Got all these little one-liners, and I don't want the multi-liner next to the one-liner. But yeah, after room, I am going to totally clean this up because this is going to be a mess, right? It's going to be a mess. But I'm not there yet. Because what'll happen is every single time before each goes, it'll create a room, and we'll just leave a trail of rooms behind us. And so we need an after each, which deletes the room, right? But I'll burn that bridge when I come to it. So yeah, so this is not going to equal empty string now. This is going to equal ID colon room.id. That's better. It's having the same error though. Do I have? I'm probably just doing something brain dead. Because it's going out and it's pulling it back, right? And I'm going to leave the ID in there because I think that's a good idea. Why is that happening? Redis client.json.get room ID. And room.name is the pit. Okay, let's look at my implementation. Because I'm setting the wrong capital R versus lowercase r. Now, that said, I'm still getting an error, but I'm getting a better error. Okay, let's look at the spec here. Okay, I don't need to log that out anymore. And the pit received null. Okay, so see if this works here. Oh, I did this. I did the same mistake in two places. I know that you said sane is a typo, but it really feels like the operative word here, doesn't it? It reminds me of a joke my son told me a long time ago that I turned into a joke about data science. But let's make this pass, and then I'll tell the joke. So the joke is, what is a programmer's favorite? What is a pirate's favorite programming language? And when you tell this joke in person, and you're probably all thinking it right now, you're all like, the audience says R, and then I always respond with, you might think it'd be R laddie, but his first love be the sea. So doesn't work as well without the audience participation, but it's still actually a pretty funny joke. But it's really a variation of this joke my son told me when he was little, which was, what's a pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet? And then everyone says R, because it's obvious. And then you see, you might think it'd be laddie, but its first love be the sea. So I need to do a refactoring in here, which will make this not happen again. Const key equals that. Key and const path equals $.name. And that's a little tidier. And then we've got the same problem in here. Is everything passing? Huh. And that is because in my session, I did lowercase. I think I wanted to use uppercase. I think I really need to decide how I'm going to do this, don't I? Type I is not a function. Okay, so that's again in my room spec. That's because I did that. Now it's all passing. That's a really annoying little feature of VI test. And I'm going to change this. I'm saying when the name is updated, but I think I'm going to say when the properties are updated. Description. The pit is a deep, dark pit stares. Get all Nietzsche on it. And then I can just do this. This feels like a slightly easier way to do it. And then I'm gonna consistify some of my code here. Okay, so I haven't made this do anything yet. It's basically going to be this code here, but with a different path, which leads to an obvious refactor. This is going to be the new description. All this new value. I'm going to do the same up here. This is going to return description instead. That should all pass. Okay, those all pass. Now I have a very obvious function here called fetch property. It'd be set fetch property. get fetch. Fetch property. So this is both a getter and a setter. These little functions are. And then the keys can always be correct. The path is this. Okay, so this is going to take a path in, and it's going to take a new value. Value actually. Value is undefined. Then go ahead and set it. Always return it regardless. We could do this. Return await Redis client JSON to get. No. And then actually we just want to return the result of this. Like that. Up here, then we can say this.get fetch property. And then we can give it the path. And we can give it the value. Well, that's just value. And that's going to be, I think, we can await that default result. And then that goes away. And then each of these little properties becomes nice and neat and tidy and simple. And here, instead of description, we're passing in name and name. And if I'm not careful and I do too much metaprogramming, I'm going to end up creating a library. Okay, that is not working because this is value. Now it's working. Cool. Now let's take a look in Redis and see how many keys I have wrought. Because I'm not cleaning up after myself very well. Yeah, it's just a few. So what I need to do next is I need to clean up my spec here and say before each, create a room. Then after each, and then we'll say it'll be sync await Redis client dot. Yeah, exactly, Mario. Exactly. Exactly. And we're just going to say JSON dot delete. Actually, it's just delete. Let's do unlink. We'll be slightly more performant. By the way, the difference between unlink, and delete is delete frees the memory and then returns. Unlink removes it from the hash table, returns, and then frees the memory sometime, relatively soon. And so it returns faster. So it blocks Redis for less time. So we're going to unlink. And this is a little hacky, actually, because now that I think about it, because I want to unlink room : room.id. Now, let's go into here and do a flush all. That's not how you do a flush all. In here, flush all. Oh, prompts just does it. There we go. Everything's gone now. Let's rerun our tests. That's a bad sign. Why is it failing? I just tried to clean up the code for the last tidbit so I can wrap up the stream, and then everything's falling apart. This calls for a drink, just Coke. Can I read properties of null? Did I? That is on live user. Oh, I bet you that is in the session spec. I capitalized user. I want it capitalized. I was doing it wrong. So in here, that needs to be user. And I've clearly missed it somewhere. In my session spec, user. Okay, now it's passing. It is probably leaving those users in there, though. It is. There's a room left in there, too, because I'm creating them in this spec. And so, because before each I create, or before all. So let's do an after all. Hit sync. Oh, well, eventually this will be replaced with something a little cleaner, because right now we're saying JSON.set and we're setting these things, but we just created a room object that knows how to create itself and set its properties. And so what we should be doing in this spec, in the session spec, is using that to do that. But we need to do that for the user as well. And we're just not there yet. So for now, so that I don't leave cruft behind in Redis, we're going to do an await Redis client.flush all. Working. We could be, let's be more precise. Let's go ahead and unlink. Is unlink variadic? No, is it? I don't think it is. I pass it. It is. So it's delete. Joy of joy. Let's pass it a bunch of keys. And we'll just be real explicit about what we delete. We'll just delete the things that we created. That way, if there happens to, because what's going to happen is I'm going to have some other thing running and not realize I'm going to have some wrong version of Redis, some wrong Docker image up, have a bunch of data in there I care about, not realize that's what's running because I haven't stopped it and started to back up the one I want. And then I'm going to run my tests and I'm going to blow away my entire database. And then I'm going to be angry. And so let's not do that. That still passes, of course. And let's see if my Redis is empty. It's not. Just unlink. I bet you unlink takes an array instead of discrete arguments. So let's do that. Running. I like that this runs in 179 milliseconds, even though I'm doing like a crap ton of I/O talking to Redis. That won't scale. At some point, I'll have to make things a little smarter. Okay, so now it's cleaning up for itself in its entirety. So cool. That is good. And I've got consistency in my key space names. Room isn't done yet. It creates and it fetches and it updates. I haven't actually tried fetching a room yet that exists. I want to rename this command here. Let's do that right now here. Let's just call it fetch. And then that's going to break stuff. Probably in my session here. Actually, it's going to be right in here because that's the only thing that calls fetch. And let's do the same thing for user while I'm at it. I'll fetch user.fetch. We don't need to say user.fetch user. That's repetitive and redundant. So then in the session here, we call user.fetch user. That's slow all of a sudden. And that's because I'm calling fetch user in other places. So there's user.fetch there. There we go. Just clean up a little bit of cleanup here in the code. Yeah, I know. It's particularly true here in user and room because there's just going to be like, I don't want to say entity, but there's going to be thing, right? I'm going to call it thing. And then we're going to have thing.fetch by ID, which ends up being a superclass probably, or something along those lines. It could get really polymorphic up in here. But this get fetch property is clearly something that needs to be, that clearly is going to, this same value is going to end up in the user and everywhere else. And so it's just going to scream superclass. And, everyone always says favor composition over inheritance. And I always go down the inheritance path and I almost always regret it. But we'll see what we end up doing at a future date because I think that's probably enough. I'm going to go ahead and commit this code out there and you all can play with it if you like. I don't remember what I did. End of stream 2. There we go. I'm like the worst with commit messages. So cool. That is out there. That is pretty much all I've got for the stream today. I'm pretty happy with where I got. It was fun. So let's bring me back up out of the war room here. And just a little bit of things to go check out. So thanks, of course, everybody for watching. I stream for looks like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It is 4:18 on a Friday, as you can see by the clock on my wall. And so I'm thinking it's getting close to Miller time. But before we all run off and have our afternoon beers, if you're not on our Discord server, go check us out, discord.gg/Redis. All of us are always hanging out there all the time on the developer advocacy team. I'm on there a lot, ready to answer questions for RedisOM and Node Redis. Steve's out there answering questions on RedisOM for .NET, and Savannah's out there answering Python questions. A lot of us are knowledgeable on Redis, and we try to answer questions when we can, so go check it out. The version of Redis I've been using in this library is Redis Stack. If you want to check that out, go out to redisio.doc/stack, and you can install it. I usually use a Docker image, but you can also sign up on Redis Cloud to do that as well. And if you want to sign up on Redis Cloud to do that, then it's see if I can find a link here. I don't have a link handy for that, but it's redis.com/try-free. If you're so inclined and you don't follow me already, give me a follow on Twitter. I'm at Guy Royce, and give Redis a follow too. It's Redis Inc. And let's see if we have it here. Well, here's the cloud URL. But yeah, lots of stuff going on. We're streaming all the time now. We've got typically 4 streams a week going, if everything's perfect. So on Tuesdays, we have Savannah streaming Python stuff. She's working on doing a bunch of message brokers using streams. I was actually on there earlier this week helping her. Wednesday, Steve works on RedisOM for .NET. That's typically what he's doing. On Thursdays, Simon is working with the various IoT projects, and so he's doing Redis and IoT stuff. He most recently did the Redis IoT. It was he's doing like a vision. He's got an LED matrix and he's showing how Bloom Filter works internally inside of it, which is really cool. And I'm working on this on Fridays. So come check it out. I see some questions here in chat here. So happy to share, Mario. That's literally my job, but I also thoroughly enjoy sharing what I know. And now we're ready for a step 2 for those of you who are a fan of that particular stealth camper up in Edmonton. So it's time for a step 2, and we're on Twitch, twitch.tv/RedisInc, and we do this on YouTube as well, so you can watch this in either place. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I think I've thanked all the people. Thank you all again for hanging out with me. It's always appreciated. And until next week, I bid you adieu. Did I say that right? I don't speak French very well. And that's right, Camping with Steve for the win. So his stuff is amazing, and I very much appreciate his stream. So, and if you don't watch Camping with Steve, you should check it out. It's great content, and he actually just had a very tragic thing recently. So prayers to him. So thanks a lot, everyone. See you next time. Bye.